Next up is House File 4850. That is my bill, so I will turn the chair over to Vice Chair Wozniak.
All right, Representative Hansen, would you like to move your bill?
Yes, Madam Chair, I will move that House File 4850 be recommended to be re-referred to the Ways and Means Committee.
Representative Hansen, you also have an author's amendment. Would you move the A1 amendment and explain it for us briefly?
Yes, Madam Chair, I will move the A1 amendment. Members, the A1 amendment relates to capital projects. This topic has been posted on the LCCMR website since December. We have not had many in-depth meetings of LCCMR since that time. The reason for the amendment is over the last several years, there has been a movement towards more capital projects in LCCMR. So if there are capital projects, the intent of this amendment is that they go through the same process as capital projects that go through bonding would have. And so they would go to MMB and they'd have to demonstrate that they are actually a project. So that is the A1 amendment, and I would ask for your support.
Representative Hansen moves the A1 amendment to get the bill in the form the author wants. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Representative Hansen, to your bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. This House file relates to reform of the LCCMR. What it does is most of what I said on the floor, Representative Heinzman, when you would ask me about reform of LCCMR. So with the amendment on capital projects, I think it provides greater strength in terms of when those projects happen, that they are real and that they can move forward as a real project if they do occur. Members, as I said on the floor, I believe part of what has been a challenge with the LCCMR has been partisanship. And the reforms that were done nearly 20 years ago may have worked for a time, but are not working now. So what this bill does is, instead of having a legislative majority having a majority of legislators from that house on the commission, it would have 2 members from each party in each house, just like another commission I'm on, the Legislative Audit Commission. So it'd be a true commission format, and that those members would be picked by their respective caucuses. So you don't have the majority caucus picking the members of the minority caucus to serve on the commission. This would have a net effect of reducing the number of legislators on the commission. Next, it would have 8 citizen members that would be appointed by the governor on staggered terms when they are by congressional district. So that encourages population and regional balance by having them appointed by congressional district. In addition, it provides for a tribal member so that there is direct support for that. I know there have been some input about having maybe 2 tribal members, one from the Dakota and one from the Ojibwe. So I'm open to that, but the bill that's in front of us has 1 tribal member right now. So there would still be 17 members, but it would change the makeup of those members. In addition, it would provide that if a member has a conflict of interest, that they would not vote on the final package, and so then the supermajority would be dependent on those voting that do not have a conflict. We've had the current operating procedure with LCCMR has been notification of conflicts, and this would tighten up any particular conflicts by making sure that the vote of the supermajority is of those that do not have a conflict on the topic. And with that, I would ask for your support.
At this point, we'll open it up for questions from members. Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Hansen, I'm just wondering, I think that I'm looking at the language and I see that you're saying or stating in the bill that you cannot be a registered lobbyist. Does that mean you could work for a lobbyist and then actually serve on this committee if this bill was passed?
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and you were a little fuzzy there, Representative Heinzman, but uh, you would have to be, if you are a registered lobbyist, you could not be on the commission. That's the same language I believe is on the Clean Water Council. If you work for a entity that has lobbyists, but you are not the lobbyist, you could still be on the commission as long as you are not the lobbyist that is being receiving compensation as a lobbyist.
Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having a term limit for some of these, is it there? I'm seeing maybe 2 years. Could you talk about that? Could you help me understand a little bit better, Representative Hanson, if that's kind of what we were talking about in terms of limiting term?
Representative Hanson, did you hear enough of that?
I think Representative Heinzman was asking about term limits. This bill does not have the explicit two-term limit. You know, I am, as I've mentioned before, I am open to that. I believe the Senate may have that, but you know, we've got a lot here that I think is significant reform, and I'd like to continue discussions with you as we go forward on that.
Representative Heinzman, any other questions? We are having a hard time hearing and you're breaking up a little bit. So if we have to repeat something, we'll have you do that. Any other questions?
I do have a number of other questions, but with the bad connection, I think that I'll leave it there. It's just unfortunate this didn't come sooner. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that there's a lot more to work on, and I wish that we could go through the process as would have if it had come through before being introduced April 29th.
All right, we will move to Representative Eklund.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Hanson, I think this is a good idea to try to see if we can fix or reform the process. I do agree with Representative Heinzman on one aspect of this. I think we need to take a look at putting some kind of term limits in for the citizen members, whether it's staggered or whatever. And the reason I say this, after sitting on LCCMR for 7 years, it's pretty obvious that the entrenched members of the commission have taken over ownership, and I don't think that was the intention of when the LCCMR was set up under the ENTRF. So that's something I'd really seriously like to take a look at. The legislators are term limited by the fact that they have to seek re-election, and then and especially with this legislation that they have to be picked by the caucus. So I mean that's two reasons right there where the legislators part of this would be term limit. But overall, we need to reform the process, and Representative Heinzman and Representative Lewick and I have talked about this, especially with Representative Lewick got his first taste of what LCCMR was like last summer. And I think if we can get some kind of reform through, we can make the process work a little bit smoother. You take a look, we have about $70 million or so every year, give or take, that we spend in the LCCMR, but it turns into a major battle to get majority approval out the door, where Lessard Sams, on the other hand, that spends far greater amount of money but don't have a political majority on their board, can get it done relatively quicker. So thank you, Representative Hanson. That was a long comment, but I appreciate the effort here.
Representative Hanson, did you have a response?
Thank you, Representative Eklund. And I should note, we do clarify the advisory committee to the governor also would serve for 2-year terms because there was some ambiguity there. I think that advisory committee served for 1 year. So when it's 1 year, they continually have to, you're starting the process all the time. So having that 2-year term, I should note that these reforms would go into effect. They are prospective, so that the members that are appointed now would serve out their terms, and then they would begin after that. It's just don't believe it's appropriate or procedurally appropriate to be cutting terms with change while members have been appointed to it. So they would serve out their terms and then the new process would begin. So I think this strengthens this. It provides for more accountability and more transparency for the process. And to the question of timing, Representative Heinzman, we had that debate on the floor, and we've had those debates on the committee. So taking input throughout the session is important. And again, we're here to work every day. And as long as we're in open session, we should try to make sure that we're trying to improve things. So I'd ask for your support.
Any further discussion? Not seeing any hands go up. Representative Hansen, were those your closing remarks, or do you want to say anything else?
I think they were my closing remarks.
All right. Representative Hansen renews his motion that House File 4850 as amended be recommended to be re-referred to the Ways and Means Committee. The clerk will take the roll.
Representative Hansen.
Aye.
Hansen votes aye. Vice Chair Wozniak.
Wozniak, aye.
Wozniak votes aye. Lead Heinzman.
Heinzman, no.
Heinzman votes no. Representative Acom.
Aye.
Acom votes aye. Representative Ackland.
No.
Ackland votes no. Representative Backer.
Backer, no.
Backer votes no. Representative Becker-Finn.
Aye.
Becker-Finn votes aye. Representative Eklund.
Aye.
Eklund votes aye. Representative Fisher.
Fisher, aye.
Fisher votes aye. Representative Green.
No.
Green votes no. Representative Igo.
I don't know.
Igo votes no. Representative Jordan.
Aye.
Jordan votes aye. Representative Keeler.
Keeler, aye.
Keeler votes aye. Representative Lee.
Lee, aye.
Lee votes aye. Representative Lippert.
Lippert, aye.
Lippert votes aye. Representative Lewick.
Lewick, no.
Lewick votes no. Representative Morrison is excused. Representative Nelson.
Nelson, no.
Nelson votes no. Representative Tice is excused. Madam Chair, there are 10 ayes and 7 nays and 2 excused.
The motion prevails.